So Harry has written a book called Spare. He got paid well over £14 million for this book. So considering we all know that he's had some financial strappings and that his wife is not very happy about being the sole breadwinner, this is very, very alluring to individuals in his predicament to do. So keep that in mind. But all we're going over today is to sit there and see if this is him. And as I've seen many a program and the British people themselves speaking on him as, what is the word they like to use? Dense? Or if Meghan is driving this train wreck, or if he's driving the train wreck. That's all I'm interested in. I'm sure many of you are just interested in that. Everything now that comes out of his mouth seems to be just an excuse for his behavior. So shall we proceed?
You write about a contentious meeting you had with him in 2021. You said, I looked at Willie, really looked at him, maybe for the first time since we were boys. I took it all in. His familiar scowl, which had always been his default in dealings with me, his alarming baldness, more advanced than my own, his famous resemblance to Mummy, which was fading with time.
So he's talking about William, and this is the section of the book, apparently with a story that has happened with William. And this particular story that I know is about to be played out is when they got into an altercation. A physical one. So when you sit there and you have someone retelling of a childhood sibling, friend, someone that you grew up with, you either hate their guts, you're indifferent, or like most normal people, you know, it's like, that's my sibling, my brother, does some stupid things, does some smart things. I'm a little jealous. I'm not a little jealous, you know, those kind of things. So as he goes through this, we see a little bit of a side smile, like one side of his face smiling at the receding hairline of poor William. This is Harry's joke. The little sadistic ass is vindictive.
I'm with age. It's pretty cutting.
I don't see it as cutting at all. My brother and I love each other. I love him deeply.
My brother and I, we love each other. You see, there's eye movement in there. He's not really filtering. He's not really going to emotion. Actually, he does not go into emotion at all. He's just in RAM. His body is moving. We see the looseness in the spine, but we're watching an actor. He is portraying. So we have this non-emotion issue talking about his brother who is beating him up. He knows what section of the book this is. This is not going to be a surprise when it's revealed to him. His mind's already there. So if this was going to be a bone of contention, you know, something that is so traumatic, we would see that, but we don't.
There has been a lot of pain between the two of us, especially the last 6 years. Now
we sit there and we see him go to emotion. We didn't really catch the entire sentence as it was coming out of his mouth because of the cuts, but to sit there and see that emotion do come out, it's been very painful these past 6 years. It's pretty ugly territory. It's like, oh, okay. You also see now he's starting to slump down. So he's not very happy about where he and his brother are in their relationship.
Anything that I've written and anything I've included is ever intended to hurt my family. But it does give a full picture of the situation as we were growing up. And also squashes this idea that somehow my wife was the one that destroyed the relationship between these two brothers.
And again, we see the ease of the body in its motion, the arms coming up, encompassing the story. And we don't see any guilt. We don't see him trying to look away. We don't see him trying to run away from it. There's no body movement that's trying to get away. He's owning it. Those big arm movements encompassing the story, him being very attentive to telling the story. He truly believes in the purpose of this book. Whatever purpose he's got in his mind, he believes it. That's why you're not seeing shame. It's hard to sit there and go, oh, he's a truth teller. Because basically all you have to say is, oh, he's relaxed. He's engaging. Liars are actually much more animated and easier to point out.
Once my mother's coffin actually went into the ground, that was the first time that I actually cried. Yeah, there was never another time. I had a huge amount of frustration and blame towards the British press for their part in it.
Even at 12, at that young, you were feeling that toward the British press?
Yeah, it was obvious to us as kids, the British press's part in our mother's misery. And I had a lot of anger inside of me that luckily I never expressed to anybody, but I resorted to drinking heavily. because I wanted to numb the feeling, or I wanted to distract myself from whatever I was thinking. And I would, resort to drugs as well.
Harry admits he smoked pot and used cocaine, and writes that in his late 20s, he felt hopeless and lost.
There was this weight on my chest that I felt for so many years.
There's weight on my chest that I felt for so many years. He's motioning with his body. The honesty is there. His body is singing with the words coming out of his mouth. The hand is at his chest, sitting on my chest, the pressure. He's emotionally accessing this. This is truth. Now, he's going to go into how he was never able to cry about his mama. But about 5 minutes prior to this part of the interview, he said he cried when they put her body in the ground. So he did cry. He did have a mourning period. I guess he forgot between 5 minutes ago and now. But it did happen.
And I was never able to cry. So I was constantly trying to find a way to cry.
And we see the light in the face. It's freaky. He's looking for a way to cry. He's so excited about this moment and telling this part of the story that the face itself is smiling. Not necessarily in the mouth because it is speaking, but the face, the ears are up. The muscles through the jaw are up. It's the part that just pulls your head up in excitement.
Cry, but even sitting on my sofa and going over as many memories as I could muster up about my mum. And sometimes I watch videos online.
Now, through this part of the conversation, we are not accessing emotion. We are not trying to run away. The body isn't trying to scoot away. The body isn't trying to turn away. It's just facing forward, accessing no emotion. I'm going through all these pictures in my mind. We don't have access to pictures, so that doesn't count. Trying to drum up some emotion. We don't access emotion. Yet at the same time, we see that the body is loose. It is his truth. Doesn't necessarily have to match reality. That's the rules of their game.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
You and your brother both directly asked your dad not to marry Camilla.
Yes.
Why?
We didn't think it was necessary. We thought that it was going to cause more harm than good.
So he goes back in the chair, kind of leans down in and to the side. It's like he's settling into this, I would say, his argument, because he may not be arguing with Anderson, but in his mind, apparently it looks like it's coming out as an argument, his argument for the why, because he has literally anchored himself into this position.
And that if he was now with his person.
If he's now with his person and the side that he's got his body kind of leaned away but into, he's put her behind him. He smirked at her, this person. So he doesn't like her.
That surely that's enough. Why go that far when you don't necessarily need to? We wanted him to be happy, and we saw how happy he was with her. So at the time it was, okay.
You wrote that she started a campaign in the British press to pave the way for a marriage, and you wrote, I even wanted Camilla to be happy. Maybe she'd be less dangerous if she was happy. Mm-hmm. How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
That made her.
So I'm going to say this. Most of you do not know, and I found out watching this. When you see him do his mouth like that and rehabilitate her image, his mouth comes in like an ick. Like he doesn't even like to say this part. I didn't know this, but he told everybody. The British family is extremely worried about their image. And yes, as an American, I'm like, well, that's odd, because I thought it was odd that they sit there and read the tabloids that much. That explains a lot. Because here in the good old USA, with all our corruption, nobody really cares about image. It's like rug burn. Yeah, it's not great, but at the same time, it's like, meh, but I like the way she votes. And that's all that matters. But in this particular situation with the royal family, they have nothing. They do not exercise their power in government. They absolutely do nothing. All they are is an image. That is it. So that would explain why that is important. And now you're looking at a young man, this is why we're discussing it, who has grown up with that thought. So woke is a natural path for him to take because it's all about image. Who either can play victim or who can play victim and savior or who can play savior. It's all about image. And that is why you see so much disdain that he feels that Camilla is using to rehabilitate her image because they have nothing else.
Dangerous.
that made her dangerous because of the connections that she was forging within the British press. And there was open willingness on both sides to trade of information. And with a family built on hierarchy,
his hands are moving with the words, his body's moving with the words, and a family built on hierarchy, the lips go tight. She was winning. She was winning. And Harry didn't like it. You know, I theorize that a lot of his antics that were put in those tabloids that made them look bad because image is everything. And of course, he would have then been confronted. You wore a Nazi uniform? What is wrong with you? Are you daft? It's because of...
Mama.
I'm almost positive that was an excuse throughout his years. But I digress. Shall we go on?
And with her on the way to being Queen Consort, there was going to be people or bodies left in the street because of that.
I wish it wouldn't cut so much because I would have liked to have seen the follow through with that. Peoples or bodies. Because the one thing I would have liked to have seen if he was afraid it was going to be his person that was one of the bodies.
Over the years, he was one of those bodies. He accuses Camilla and even his father at times of using him or William to get better tabloid coverage for themselves. Prince Harry writes, Camilla, quote, sacrificed me on her personal PR altar.
If you are led to believe as a member of the family that being on the front page, having positive headlines, positive stories written about you is going to improve your reputation or increase the chances of you being accepted as monarch by the British public, then that's what you're going to do.
In his book, Harry writes that when he introduced Meghan Markle to his family in 2016, his father initially took a liking to her, but William was skeptical, disdainfully referring to Meghan as an American actress. Though Harry doesn't specify who, he says other members of the royal family were uneasy as well.
Right from the beginning, before they even had a chance to get to know her. And the UK press jumped on that, and here we are.
And what was that based on, that mistrust?
The fact that she was American, an actress, divorced, black, biracial, with a black mother. Those were just 4 of the typical stereotypes that becomes a feeding frenzy for the British press.
But all those...
All right, so we've seen more of his truth. He's not being deceptive. He's listing it off. His body's singing with him. I don't know what it is with you guys. Put it in the comments. What is so wrong with just flat out being an American? Is it because we have higher IQ points? Come on. Fess up. Episode 2 of Skinwalker Ranch has been released. And as we follow along with the reality of it, is it real or is it not? This time, supposedly, they saw something.
Oh, there it is again. There it is again. There it is again.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.